Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. It's Kaitlin here, and wherever you are in the world, welcome back and welcome to today's video, where I'm going to be taking you through my weekly plan with me. Lately, I've been really feeling a pull to introduce more mindfulness and intentional living exercises into my journal. So in addition to my classic weekly setup, I'm also going to be showing you guys a weekly review that I've been doing at the beginning of the week that just helps me get in the right headspace going into the new week ahead. I'm also going to be talking briefly about some kind of strategies and techniques that I've been implementing in my journal to kind of let go of this perfectionistic mindset that I can sometimes have with this little notebook of my thoughts. So stay tuned for that as well. But enough about what we're talking about today. Quickly, let me mention the supplies I'll be using. These are just some scrapbook paper and stamping items that I used in my July plan with me. And since I like to kind of keep a similar theme throughout the whole month, I'm just going to be carrying over all those supplies into this weekly setup. So let's begin with this weekly review. I really like the idea of reflecting on the past week, not just to get an idea of how the week went, but also to kind of act as a way of creating a time capsule and summary of all the things that happened. I just really love the idea of having a really clear, kind of captured record of all of those cool little memories that happen every day. So my weekly review acts as both a reflection tool as well as a memory keeping tool. When I set up this spread, I divide the page in two, and I use the top half as a weekly review section where I reflect on the previous week and what happened, and then I use the bottom half as a section to set my intentions for the following week so I can get my head right. I like to keep my reflections pretty short because I don't like to spend too much time journaling, honestly. So what I find works for me is having preset questions for both my review as well as my upcoming weekly intentions so that I know exactly what I need to kind of get answered before I can move on. When it comes to my weekly review, I have 3 key questions I'd like to answer, and I try to answer them as neutral as possible, so I'm not kind of creating this space of self-judgment, which my perfectionistic mind tends to do. So the 3 questions I like to ask myself are, what is some cool stuff that happened this week? What are some lessons that I learned this week? And finally, what are some items that I maybe avoided or procrastinated on this week? And I find that these 3 questions just kind of give me a really good overview of what kind of happened during the week, but also they allow me to bring awareness to certain things that need to be addressed in the following week so I don't put them off until the end of time. So after I finish writing out my weekly review, which usually takes me about 5 to 10 minutes, I then like to jump down to the second half of the page and complete my intentions for the following week. I ask myself 2 questions in this section. The first being, what do I want to focus on this week? This is a pretty standard question, I think, when it comes to kind of setting intentions for the upcoming week, but I really like kind of setting out 3 to 5 items that I really want to laser focus on so I can keep them at the front of my mind when I then go into my weekly planning. Besides the really intense focus question, I like to end it off with a bit more of a lighthearted question, which is, what am I looking forward to in the following week? I think sometimes it's really easy for me to focus on what needs to be done next and constantly thinking in the future. So asking myself what I'm looking forward to in the week approaching just allows me to be a bit more present and also get excited for what could be happening the next week. Not everything I'm excited for is super big and momentous. Some things are small, like warmer weather coming around the corner in Canada and getting an ice cream cake from Kawartha Dairy. Admittedly, usually one of these items for me is food, because that's something I really enjoy, but you know, really anything goes in this section, and it's just fun to write down a couple things that I'm looking forward to.
I met a young man searching for glory. I took out an old pen and wrote in my story. Then I kept walking on down the road. When your time is up, it's time to go. I pray he reads what's on the note and takes to heart what I wrote.
So now I'm flipping over and starting my weekly setup. This is for the week of July 5th, and for every single weekly that I do, I really like to make a rolling weekly layout. This layout is heavily based on the Alistair method, but I do modify it a little bit since I don't really require an overview of all of the dates going on during the week, because I keep all that information in my iCalendar. I actually find that using an iCalendar in conjunction with a bullet journal is a really effective way for me to stay organized, so I really like including that digital tool as part of my setup. I've seen a lot of different layouts for the rolling weekly, so I'll take you through how I like to make mine. Pretty much I set up 2 pages. The left-hand page, which is my task overview of the week, and then the right-hand page, which is where the rolling part of the rolling weekly comes in, because the right-hand page is a spot for all of my daily logs and kind of rolling daily task lists. So because I don't use my journal as a space to overview events, I only add those in my daily logs. The left page is really only a spot for me to brainstorm and schedule all of the things I have to do in the week. And this is where I like to use an Alistair method list, where I write Monday through Sunday across the page, and each of those letters acts as a column where I can put the task signifier under the day the task needs to be done. I find this is a really powerful planning tool because it allows me to schedule things in advance and spread out my tasks at the beginning of the week, so I'm not scrambling to do everything on one day, which is inevitably what will happen if I don't plan things in advance. So after a little bit of light collaging in the corner of my spread, just to, get all the creative juices out and have a bit of fun in my journal, I'm going to start migrating my tasks into my weekly to-do list. I migrate my to-do items from 2 different places. The first, which you just saw, is my monthly task list. But another area I like to make sure I'm checking is my iCalendar. And although my iCalendar is a spot for events, appointments, and date-specific things of that nature, I do find that sometimes by checking it, it really helps me identify any tasks that might be connected to an event going on in the week. For example, I have to pick up my ice cream cake on Friday, so when I checked my calendar and saw I had that appointment on that day, I realized that I had to pre-order the cake on Wednesday, and I proceeded to add that task to my weekly task list. So that's kind of how my migration process works. I go from my monthly task list as well as from my iCal to collect all of my weekly items that I have to do. And after that, my weekly to-do list is done, and I go ahead and use the right-hand page to make my daily logs, which are exactly as they are done in the bullet journal method. So that's why this page is blank, because I set them up at the beginning of every day. And that is the weekly setup complete. So that was an overview of how I like to plan my week, so it's productive but also mindful. And yeah, that is the video coming to a close. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I had a blast, and I'll talk to you guys all in the next video. Bye, everybody.
I made a note story. He took out a notepad and wrote something for me. Then he kept walking on.